This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club. Be a part of the community and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Turning Mountain Dew into wine. An interview with Charlie from Golden Hive Mead. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 420. All right, let's try that again. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friend, have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com. You could email Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com, but even better, call it in to 325-305-6107. And when I use your voicemail on a future episode, you'll get yourself a gift card to ketconnection.com. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing, and I am so happy to welcome my friend Charlie here on the show today. I have stuff written down for you. I didn't run it by you. I didn't vet it with you, so you can correct me or whatever. Today's guest is Charles Biolo. Charles is the man behind Golden Hive Mead, which is a fantastic resource for recipes, information, and all you need kits available on his website, goldenhivemead.com. He's also responsible for the very popular TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube accounts that have gone viral a number of times, which we will get into later. Charlie, thanks for joining the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joshua. It's a pleasure to be here.
First off, apologies that I am so lazy. I made you sit through the intro bumpers. But it worked out because I accidentally killed my mic going to it. And so I'm like, all, welcome to the show on my end. And you're like, dude, are you talking? Like, what is this? Like, the disappointment in your face that you're on a Bush League show just made my day. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, man. I love it. It's authentic. It's a vibe. This is what homebrewing is all about.
Oh, dude, thank you. I love the spin. Are you in marketing? Is that what you do for a living? No, I did at the beginning. I wanted to say his TikTok and all this are just marginally more popular than ours. I think you're like at a gazillion lights on TikTok by now. You're well over 1 million followers on all those platforms and all that. And I feel like it just, the virality, is that a word?
of what you're doing has just caught on with people. Specifically, like I think I knew about you, I don't know, a year ago-ish, but when you did was it the Monster or was it the Mountain Dew I just saw I saw all the online magazines just covering you. Like, this man, what is this man? Mountain Dew Jesus,
Yeah. So it's funny because up until that point, I actually had I think I'm well over 5 million followers across all platforms right now. But before I even started doing the more like meme recipes like the Mountain Dew and Monster, I was like well over a million. And I already had a pretty well established following, but it was much more of like a serious, like technical homebrewing perspective. And so, like, people, like, if you're a diehard homebrewer, you were probably following me or you at least know who I was. Um, but, but those crazy experiments are kind of what made things go more mainstream, and they're like, "Oh, you're the Mountain Dew guy," and
You're the Mountain.
that's kind of what I'm recognized at now. But that's not how it started.
That's fantastic. Before we get to how it started, if you don't mind, I have a little bit of housekeeping. This is people's least favorite part, especially. But let me just get there. I promise it'll be under 2 minutes. I'm not going to put the counter on the screen, but just give me a couple minutes, friends. If you go over to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join a recipe receiving tier, you're going to get yourself a London Porter shipped out this month. It's a fantastic kit. It's one of the kits that has been most requested for us to bring back because I don't think we've done it since March of 23. So go over to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join a recipe receiving tier. Thank you to our sponsors, Munson's Malt, Hopsdirect.com, and of course, Imperial Yeast. Our kits would not be premium without premium ingredients. We thank them for supporting us and everything we do. And then I forgot to make a slide for it. So pretend, guys, that watching at YouTube, the 18 of y'all that watch it, that I have a slide up right now for Brew Day Live, Saturday, February 22nd, 10 a.m. Central. My pop and I will be brewing this London Porter on our Grainfather G40. And, come join the fun. Again, youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. Stop the clock. I think that was 90 seconds. Boom.
Hey,
Right
there you
time.
go.
People love it.
There's some compelling ads, man. I got to try some of that yeast and hops.
Yeah, dude. I will say all of our sponsors are top notch, and not like prioritizing any of them, but Imperial Yeast, using them has been the game changer. And we've been, before they sponsored the show, we used to run a homebrew supply shop and got out of that. There was no money in it for us, but and we could go into that later too about, you probably see a lot of local homebrew supply shops are unfortunately in a bad spot right now. But
yeah,
good yeast, whether it's from Imperial or whomever, because there's a lot of good manufacturers, good yeast for beer makes a huge difference. Fresh, good yeast being pitched makes a huge difference in my batches. So
you are 100% right. And that's sort of one of the reasons that I haven't really gotten out of my comfort zone with yeast, because I found one or two strains that I sort of stick with mead. And maybe I should broaden my horizons a little bit and try some of those awesome beer yeasts. I know there's a lot you can test out with that, but it's tough when you find a good one that you like.
Absolutely. And I feel that way with beer styles too. Like people who are longtime listeners of the show, I just like Kolsch. If it was up to me, all I'd brew every month rather, would be Kolsch. That's all I'd have on tap, just Kolsch. But then some people call that boring. But either way, this isn't about me. This is about you. Let's start from the beginning. First off, what got you into home brewing, and specifically mead? Because mead, unless you're a Viking, is not like on the top of most people's it's not in the frontal lobe of like, you know what I'd like to go get today? Some mead. I'm gonna get sloshed or whatever. Like,
you're 100% right. I think mead is probably, I mean, up until maybe recently, the least popular in terms of what the average person is familiar with. If you're a home brewer, you've probably heard of mead because it's actually one of the easier things to make. And I think it's a great kind of gateway to getting people into the hobby. But yeah, like outside of that, mead it's certainly gaining popularity, but it's one of those things that outside of Skyrim or Lord of the Rings, people haven't really heard of it. But so I guess how I got into it, I'll have to back up into my college days, which was few years ago, but I studied biosystems engineering at Wisconsin. And so I did a little bit of research with fermentation systems and things like that. But actually out of college, I was working for Gatorade under PepsiCo as a process engineer. So I was in the beverage industry, actually working specifically with Gatorade powders. I did some really interesting things because there weren't a lot of powders engineers, and I was doing some cutting edge things, working on trying to get powders homogeneous in the final product. Because with liquid Gatorade, it's really easy. You take a sample, and the ingredients are, perfectly mixed in every sample you take. But powders, we were having a lot of challenges with that. So a lot of my research was involved in trying to optimize that. But yeah, so I got into homebrewing as a side hobby while I was working at Pepsi. Um, and the reason I got into it was because I had a family friend who has been making mead like for the last 15 years, and he would always give me his bottles. I always loved them. I was fascinated by them. I was fascinated by the hobby in general, but I had never tried it myself. And so while I was working, I actually moved across the country and I was living out in New York, and my supply of mead was gone. So I was kind of forced to try and throw my hat in the ring and making it myself. And, at the time, I think TikTok was getting really popular, and I actually recorded my very first batch I ever made. And I sort of just thought of it as a way to document my own recipe, try to get feedback from people who actually know what they're doing. Because when I started, I had zero idea what I was doing. I had zero intentions of like creating a viral TikTok channel and turning it into a business. It was literally just a way to virtually log everything and get feedback. And I think people liked the authenticity behind me sharing everything behind my thought process, building recipes. Okay, this one didn't work out. Here's what I'm changing for this next one. And people resonated with that. People got to the point where they're like, oh, I'm going to try this too. I'm going to try this alongside of you, to the point where there were hundreds of people making batches at the same time as me. And the following just sort of grew pretty quickly after that, to the point where I was no longer just relying on my followers to learn from, but I was actually to the point where I had enough batches under my belt where I could teach other people too. And I love both of those things. And so, one thing that kind of got me popular to start and that I still appreciate is the idea of experimenting and trying new things. And so obviously the crazier things get in terms of experimentation, I think the wider net I cast into just a random audience of people that want to see what'll happen. So yeah, I guess from there, it got to the point where people were asking me for my recipes, and people said they would buy a recipe book if I made a recipe book. So I made a digital recipe book and put that out there. A lot of people enjoyed that, and yeah, it got to the point a few years later. Now I'm making my own mead making kits and selling honey and other homebrewing equipment, and it's been quite the ride, and I've loved every step of it.
Now,
And
what
it's awesome to be able to share my love for the hobby with so many other people and be able to help people make their own batches for the first time.
Dude, absolutely. What year are we talking from start to today? Like that, like a 4-year process, 3-year?
Um, Trying to think, late 2022
Okay. That's
when I kind of got
that's
started
even
with it.
more
Yeah.
incredible to me. Like
Yeah, it's relatively new.
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, and you look no older than 20 when you're like college age. I was like, when was that? Like, come on, dude. Like for some of like you, how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm 26 now.
Okay, I was going to say
Yeah.
22, but you said post college a few years ago. I was trying to do the math. I'm a college dropout, so I had to do the math on my hands and my toes.
Nice.
I tell people, I mean, I'm wearing the beanie, I'm bald. I tell people I'm 39. They're like, bro, you're 45. I'm like, that's rude. Anyway, where I'm going with this is I was curious. I don't know why I assumed you started in that. So you were in college in like 2020 during COVID, and that homebrew boom that happened. But you're saying that you got into mead after, and it is interesting to me that you got into it from a friend who is making it. A lot of people get into hobbies from their friends. I wanted to ask you, but I didn't want to interrupt your story. Commercially, are there like, do you move across the country? Is there even a lot of commercially available meads had you wanted to buy it?
The thing is, they're starting to now, and I think in the last few years I've seen them pop up more and more. But when I got started and I was across the country, I went to, I don't know if it was I think the only place you could get it was like Total Wines, and they had like a few bottles maybe. But if you just went to your random liquor store at the time, they either didn't have mead or it was very hard to find. For some reason, a lot of like liquor stores, I think the issue is people don't know what mead is, and so they don't know where to put it in the store.
Yeah.
If it were up to me, I'd consider it more like a wine, and I would probably have it by the wines. But I would find meads kind of by like the liqueurs or the cocktail ingredients, and it just made no sense to me. And so as a mead maker, if it's confusing for me to find a bottle, I can't imagine what just the average person, there's no, I think, yeah, there's just not
It's
of,
not clear. It's not clear.
right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so one of the co-hosts of the show, Todd, he is the only person I know. Well, I'm lying. Our friend Corey Purser over in California, I think she's sober now. She didn't have a problem. I think she just quit drinking.
Yeah.
No, I want to, on the record, she is an alcohol. No, I'm kidding. But she sent me a bottle, and then Todd has brewed mead before, but it's not like we were saying, it's not like it's the most popular choice of brewing. And so then you get into it, and that is wild. You move and you're like, oh crap, if I want this, I have to make it myself. And using TikTok as like almost an accountability partner to the trial and errors. It just blows my mind. Cause people will resonate, like you said, with the authentic side of stuff, as opposed to like some, that is always my excuse for why we're so bush league here at Homebrew Happy Hour. I'm like, no, we're authentic. Like you helped correct me when I messed up and wasn't recording earlier and all that. And you're like, oh, it's authentic. I was like, oh, you're a good marketer, man. You should stick in marketing. But anyways, so the equipment that you started on, was it always 1 gallon batches? Because one of the interesting things to me about you that we talked about, and we can expand on it now that we're recording, is you're still using the same equipment that you started with. And it's not slowing you down at all. Like, you're still brewing very frequently and all that. Let's talk about the equipment you started on, why the size batch you're doing, and you go from there.
Yeah, and in fact, the reason that I actually sell this equipment is because it's what I use. It's not the opposite. And so, yeah, I think when I got started, I had always thought, oh, I'm going to turn this, eventually I'm going to make some huge batches, have mead forever. But I kind of fell in love with the 1 gallon batches for the sole reason that it's so easy to experiment on multiple things so quickly and have a quick turnaround and do a lot of things at once, rather than you make one big batch with new ingredients you've never tried before. You might end up dumping a bunch down the drain. So I think that part of things is really nice. But yeah, I just started out by using 1 gallon glass carboys, and as I think my first mead ever was a blueberry mead, um, and I knew I wanted something with like a wider mouth so I could load it up with fruit more, have it easier if I want to add oak and secondary and whatnot. So I actually just pieced together a bunch of these things, just from various online stores, Amazon, some homebrew shops online, Northern Brewer is one. And so I basically I made this kit on my own. And I'm like, gosh, wouldn't this be awesome if like I could, if somebody's trying to get into the hobby, they don't want to go and do all that themselves. They kind of want to, they don't know what they're doing. It's the convenience factor of getting everything all in one kit. And at the time I had been using all these different products and components put together, and then a supplier reached out to me and they're like, hey, you want to build your own kit? Like, you tell us exactly what sort of components you need and we'll put one together and it'll be your own kit. And so I thought, yeah, this is great. And I made that kit based on what I actually used. And the kit hasn't been the same since I launched it a couple years ago. Like, I've gotten some feedback, you know, on how to improve things or things that might be better. Like, for example, including like a hops bag and things like ingredients like stabilizers, yeast, and nutrient. Because at first it was just the equipment, but I really wanted to make things as simple as possible for people. And now it literally comes with like everything you need to make a batch.
And is there crossover with brewing? Like, I mean, your kit, I'm assuming, because there's no hot side to it, or is there a hot side? Like, you know what? Let's back up a little. Pretend I am a third grader. That's my level of intellect here in this conversation.
Yeah.
The brewing process, I mean, because to me, looking at your kit that you have, I did a little bit of homework, and I've seen, there are kits out there from competitors and whatnot. It looks very straightforward, which has also got to be appealing because there's not a whole lot like, oh, first you got to do the kettle side and you got to do this and that. Mead does seem to be kind of straightforward in a way like cider can be and wine can be. So what's the brew process and what's the gear like in your kit? Not to put you, Johnny, on the spot. What do they get and what's all that? But like, talk about the entry level being accessible for people wanting to make mead. And because one thing with home brewing, sometimes people who've been in it for a while, think like, oh yeah, this is all you do, but a totally new person is just so intimidated by, oh my God, that's so much, or maybe it's so expensive, and then they never try, and then that's a
Yeah.
detriment to the hobby.
No, that's an excellent question. And I think just kind of the idea of being on social media sort of helps with that, because a lot of my videos kind of walk you through step by step of me using the kit. And so it's a lot easier for people to follow along. But let me back up and say that in the kit, I have a digital recipe guide that I made. And at first it was just recipes. But the issue with mead making is not every recipe is the same. Sometimes you add fruit in primary, sometimes you add it later on, sometimes you stabilize and back sweeten, sometimes you don't. And that was really kind of a challenging thing to communicate with people who have never done it before. So I ended up kind of deleting the original version of the book, going back and making like a brewing guide, so to say. So I included separate guides on stabilizing, oak aging, sweetening, and like how people can put together their own batch from scratch and actually make their own recipe. And then I have a list of my recipes that reference those different sections. So it's really kind of foolproof, and I think like the easiest way for people to get started. But in terms of like the most basic process for mead making, it's as simple as combining honey, water, and yeast, hydrating your yeast first, step feeding nutrients, letting it ferment, and making the decision if it's ready to drink or if you want to stabilize and back sweeten. And that's pretty much it.
That's incredible. So the entry level, I mean, it's very new person friendly, is what we're getting at in regards
For sure.
to like,
Yeah. I think it's probably the easiest way to get started in the homebrewing and in homebrewing as a hobby.
and then the packaging side, being 1 gallon. I'm assuming you mostly probably do bombers or bottles. You don't keg.
No, I don't. I usually do 12-ounce bottles or 750 milliliter bottles.
Is mead something carbonation reliant? Like, are you priming sugar the bottle before you go, or is it all?
No, so you certainly can. There are carbonated meads. I know, shout out to Man Made Mead. I know he does a lot of carbonated meads, which I'd love to try, by the way. But I've actually never carbonated a mead before. I enjoy mine still more like a wine.
Okay. And I asked that mostly because the only mead I've had has been lightly carbonated from being on a draft system. And
Got it.
It was pleasant, but I don't know if I've had it still, so I don't know what the difference that carbonic acid does. Like,
Totally.
You know what I mean?
When I give people mead for the first time and they've never had it, or they might be like you, where they've had it carbonated like at a bar or something, because a lot of bars will sell it like that. It's usually not at all what they expect, because I think a lot of the time I don't do a ton of sweetening either. I prefer mine semi-sweet or on the dry side. So they taste it and they're like, wow, this tastes like a very like complex like fruit wine. Like, this is totally different than what I expected. So yeah, I think the cool thing about mead making too is it's such a wide umbrella, similar to beer, where there's just so much you can do. You can have two meads that are on polar opposite ends of each other, and they're both delicious, but they're barely in the same category.
What's an entry level mead you would suggest to or is there an ideal mead, if you maybe recipe or whatever off the top of your head that would be like your gateway? Like for me, for an American getting into craft beer, it'd be like a blonde ale or maybe a crispy lager. Like,
Right.
Is there like a standard? Yeah, just straight up plain old, 5,000-year-old mead, the way they were making it forever ago.
Yeah, man, totally. I have an easier answer for you. It's just a traditional mead, and traditional mead just refers to honey, water, and yeast. Those ingredients, and that's it. And that's the easiest way to do it. You'll still get a great final product, and certainly there are things you can do to kind of elevate it and make it better. But um, I usually tell people who are getting started, go with a traditional. So you don't need to buy all sorts of other ingredients, or go with something with like minimum ingredients in primary. So something with like citrus, where you can throw in some orange peel, or something with like herbal ingredients like teas or lavender or thyme, or things like that are a really great way to get started, because it can get complicated, and I usually recommend that people kind of experiment after they have a few of the basic recipes under their belt.
That's very parallel to beer as well.
Yeah,
where it's like,
right.
I say the same. There are, and don't get me wrong, hey man, y'all are adults. Y'all do whatever you want. People will
Yeah.
jump into beer and on their second batch, they're already doing some complex step mashing process. And then it's going to be some hazy. So they're doing, dry hopping and this and then, God bless them, right? I like just very straightforward. When on the scale of like Neanderthal to Einstein, I'm primeval. Like, I mean, I'm down there. I'm below Neanderthal. But I just like stuff straightforward and simple. Which again, maybe I need this year. I was recently did an episode with my pop, and we were talking about like 2025 goals. We're gonna, you know, we brew every month for people at our YouTube channel, and we have been enjoying that. And I was telling him, I was like, Pop, you know, I'm interviewing a guy in the next several weeks that's in the kombucha scene, and I make kombucha personally. Maybe I should try more kombucha content, because that's something else that's just so straightforward. Like, it's not just to reach a new audience as much as like, if people realized how straightforward some of this stuff is, they try it, in my opinion. Where mead, without knowing and not looking into it, I would just assume it's more complicated than it actually is. Like, it's not a lot going on. And I don't mean that to disparage your livelihood. I just mean like mead is very straightforward, which means it can be more mainstream than it currently is.
It is. And I think that's why that like the shorts do so well, is because I can explain 90% of what people need to know in 30 seconds or so. And I think that's a great way of getting people into the hobby. And, you know, there's always the diehard homebrewers that are like, oh, he's leaving out these details and these details. But the goal is to try to get people introduced to the hobby and then funnel them in and provide the resources so they can actually, you know, learn those finer details about it and realize that, wow, there might be a lot to this, but also this is way easier than it seems.
You get trillions, gazillions, whatever views. I can't even fathom your comments when I compared to like our comments section. Sometimes I'm like, guys, why are you so mean to me? like, because there are some of the engineer types who are on the spectrum and can't help themselves with commenting. And so like, actually, Joshua, you said this.
Hey, and I get it, man. I was an engineer too, so I tend to look at things from I think people genuinely have everyone's best interest in mind. They're just trying to help people out and for people. I get it. But I stopped looking at a lot of the negativity a long time ago.
You say they have best interest. I'm going to send you some of my favorite feedback over the years. We're coming up next week. So when we're recording this, it's actually not publishing until next week. Some little behind the curtain stuff for people. But nice. And also, I just realized as you were talking, this is episode 420. I don't partake, but I'm going to get comments like, you didn't have a weed guy on. Why did you have a weed guy on? Yeah, so
I thought about that too. It would have been a great opportunity.
I'm going to go back and edit in the music with some reggae or something. We'll figure it out.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's going to be like, hey, welcome on.
You are a cigar guy, though,
absolutely, yes.
Oh, me too, man. I've just gotten into it in the last year or so.
Yeah, because you're barely 20 years old, man. You're just leading. I'm sorry, I apologize. I know, but yeah, cigars are a lovely vice of mine, and I can only imagine how well they pair with mead, because I know how well they pair with every beverage under the sun.
It is incredible. Yeah, and in fact, I'm starting a series where I'm going to be, well, I don't know if it'll be a series or just kind of an ongoing part 1, part 2, part 3 video, but I'm in the process of designing a batch that is specifically made to enjoy with a cigar. So I don't like, after you smoke a cigar, I don't know if you're the same way, but I like having like some sort of citrus, like orange or grapefruit.
Oh, really?
Just to kind of cleanse my palate. But yeah, I'm making a mead kind of inspired by that. So it's going to have grapefruit, maybe some rose and some strawberry, and it's going to be oak aged. And yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Dude, that sounds great. Yeah, I'll be on the lookout. First off, I love how active you are. I feel like, people who've been watching the show or listening, as 99% of people do, they don't watch this crap. They listen to it, but they know. It's not like, one thing I've always griped about for myself for Homebrew Happy Hour and all of our platforms. It is a not even part-time job for me. It's a quarter-time job, because the rest of my time is working for CM Becker and Ketkinech and doing these things, in the industry side of stuff. I really appreciate someone like you. I get on Instagram too often, and I will see good content. It's not just posting for the sake of it, but actually informational of what you're doing and this or that. Do you think the difference with maybe some other channels or whatever, or not even the difference, we don't have to compare. Do you think the reason why people are attracted to your content is because you you put out useful stuff. Like, I don't ever see a wasted post. I am the king of wasteful posts. You go to my thing and it's like he took a screenshot of something and posted a stupid caption because he thought he was funny. And then so I get unsubscribe, whatever. Like, do you find,
really?
Yo, all the time, dude, I am the king of alienating people because I don't understand their perspective. But
no, that's fair. I guess my perspective is there's no such thing as a wasted post. Like especially, I guess I should start by saying like I generally keep things within like the theme of homebrewing and stuff. I don't really go too far out of that. Like I'll talk about cigars and beer and whiskey every once in a while, but generally it's tailoring to my mead making audience. So yeah, I think the key there is that a while ago I really made an effort to try to post once a day on all platforms. And it's not always perfect, but I try to do once a day, at least during weekdays, 5 days a week. And I think just that consistency in of itself has tremendously helped the growth. So I would tell people if you're trying to, you know, if you're trying, this isn't a social media podcast, but if you're trying to grow a channel, consistency is key. Just be dedicated to it. And I think your followers appreciate that because they realize that you care about them and that you care about putting out good, high quality content. Um, whether it be for education or just entertainment. But yeah, I think part of it too is that I just love it. Like I'm in love with the hobby and there's so much to it. I don't know if I'll ever get sick of coming up with ideas or making mead. So
you're going to hate me when you find out this isn't a natural episode. I'm just soliciting information to grow my social media channels. That's all we're doing.
Hey, there you go. I'm happy to help there.
Yeah. So that will do it for the, no.
Hey, when the, high tides raise all ships. So
hey, I like that, man. Yeah. Look at you. I'm over here goofballing and this and that, and you're useful. If you could ever teach me how to get Redditors on the homebrewing thing to like me, man, I don't. That's worth its weight in gold. Reddit.
You know
is
what?
So
I could use some tips on that too, to be honest.
Redditors are a fickle bunch. They're fickle. Like I don't get in all my hobbies. So I do. I've been grappling. Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't know if you know the sport.
Yeah.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 13 years, and the hobby, the subreddit for the hobby or the sport or whatever is so hot and cold. I'm like, even you guys, even you. Why Reddit? Why?
Yeah, it's a cold world out there.
It really is, but
especially with like what we were talking about before, like the diehard people, like that's just how it is.
It is, and in a hobby where it is more subjective than maybe some people want to think. And so, like one thing I really appreciate about Todd and James, who do the show with me, is they're both so open to like we're old dogs and we may not do new tricks, but that does not mean the new methods of brewing won't be good for you. And like when pressure brewing came out, James was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try it. And he hasn't turned back. It's been like 3 years and some information from a listener totally changed the way he brewed, where he thought he was set for life, brewing one way. It's incredible.
Unironically, that's like the key to a lot of my most successful videos is there's people that tell me a method I'm doing of something is wrong, to which I'm open to testing. And then I'll go and make a video testing both methods side by side because I'm trying to do things the best, most efficient way that I can too. So if there really is a method that's better or safer or more efficient, I'm game. So I'll make videos trying different processes, different experiments. And a lot of the times I learn something new and I stand corrected, and it's great. It's great for everyone. And it's fun doing things like that too.
That's super fun. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because I have probably a misconception about mead based only on my anecdotal experience regarding the turnaround. Like when Todd did his first batch, he used prickly pear tuna, roasted it, made a traditional mead, and then used that in secondary. But I think it was probably Charlie Papazian's book that was like, yeah, you got to age it for a year. I'm pretty confident Joy of Homebrewing says that. Is aging critical to it? But and is there a way to mimic aging for a quicker turnaround?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, and there are a lot of there's no right answer. You could make a mead, and I should preface by saying it's very recipe dependent. I've made a dandelion mead, for example, that for whatever reason fermented extremely fast, I think it was done fermenting in like a week or two, and it got up to like 15%, which is insane.
Wow. That's
And
super quick. Yeah.
it cleared up a few weeks later. So that mead technically was ready to drink after a month, which is like super fast. Now generally I'll I'll age it for at least a few months because I find that aging certainly does help, I guess for lack of a better term, just smooth it out and allow a lot of those complex flavors to kind of meld together and work together better. A lot of the times, if you drink a young mead, there'll be some sort of harshness, or yeah, I guess mainly just harshness. So you can certainly ferment, clear, and bottle a mead immediately. I'd obviously wait until it's totally done fermenting before you even think about bottling. Um, but the longer you age, the better. And that's especially true if you're using oak. I've actually been experimenting using have you ever tried the Bad Motivator oak barrels? They're like the stainless and oak barrels.
I've not.
Yeah, they're awesome because they basically it's the same ratio of oak that like a standard cask would be. Because a lot of the times, if you use just a small full oak barrel, like it'll get way too oaky, way too quick, and it doesn't have the proper time to do the micro oxidation and all that stuff. But yeah, so with oak aging, definitely err on the aging for a longer period of time. But you can get away with shorter times aging if you're using oak cubes or oak chips or things like that. And if you're not using oak at all, aging still helps, but it's not totally necessary.
So it's like beer. I mean, in regards to like my pop and I just brewed a Kolsch in January, and it's done fermenting with imperial yeast. It turns around in 5 days or less. It's incredible.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
But time, in my opinion, where this is, sometimes I like to say things like what I'm about to say so I can get YouTube comments, the two of them I'm going to get. But like, I'd love to turn this thing around and just drink it, but it's going to be green in regards to clarity and the fullness of its final version. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually like I should have started by saying that because that's actually probably the biggest reason that people age outside of flavor is the aesthetic of it. Because a lot of the times, depending on the recipe, meads can take like months and months to get totally clear, allow that sediment to fall to the bottom, just because there's so many particles in suspension. But it's just aesthetic. Like that doesn't really change anything besides how it looks. I think it's more visually appealing if you have a crystal clear mead. But that can take time too. And yeah,
It's totally
it really is
psychological.
totally
but
just like beer.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I
And
love.
it's totally sorry.
Oh no! I interrupt you. You don't worry about interrupting me. Go ahead. You finish your thought process.
No, my last thing was that it's totally recipe dependent because I can think of batches that were genuinely like super good right off the bat, right after fermentation and right after clearing, like my elderberry mead, for example, which is one of my favorite recipes of all time. But then there are recipes like my lemon lavender that was absolutely terrible when I made it because I accidentally let the lavender sit for too long, forgot about it. Usually with like herbs and stuff in secondary, you should taste it like every few days or weekly, depending on how much you use. I just let it sit for like a month and it tasted like cleaning solution. But like kind of the golden rule in mead making is never throw anything away because age can do wonders.
Okay.
So a few years later, because that was one of the first batches I made, a couple years later, now it's really good.
Shut
Like,
up.
really good. Yeah. So I'm happy I didn't throw it out because that lavender flavor totally works well with the lemon now. It's a lot more toned down and yeah, it's pretty crazy what aging can do.
How interesting, because like I said, Todd's, I believe he ended up going 15 months, and I never tried it in the time that he was where our headquarters is, his ranch. It's like almost 4 hours from where I'm at, so I can't conveniently like I want to try his batch, get in the car half a day. But I remember him telling me the same thing in regards to tasting it. You know, he's taking gravity readings periodically, and he's not dumping them back in. He's drinking it. That's what you do. So he would take a gravity reading, be like, "Oh, it's not done yet. Oh, wow, that's good. That's still a little sweet." You know, he preferred it dry. Is it the same in regards to beer, where letting the time will also dry it out a little more, or is like if people were looking to make a drier mead, is time the most obvious thing for them to utilize, or would it be in the actual batch making process if they're going for drier, like
Oh yeah, well, Okay, I get what you're saying. It's definitely just simply fermentation time because or like wine yeast that you use for mead making are totally capable of fermenting like up to 20%. So almost every batch you
Oh, wow.
make is going to be dry
Okay.
unless you back sweeten it, at least for my recipes. Um, so yeah, eventually once it's totally fermented, 99% of the time you're going to have a completely dry mead.
And see, that's how ignorant I am to mead. So that's the normal is dryness. So if you're going for the opposite, then you have to stabilize and batch sweeten.
Exactly.
Okay, how interesting. Like I said, dude, I have to maybe check out the Total Wine or Specs in my area because I'm with you. Where if I go to a liquor store, I don't see mead. I don't, and it's not that I'm looking for it either, but it's certainly not marketed. So I've never had it commercially. I just don't know.
And like I said, even if you were looking for it, it would probably take you a good 10 minutes to find it.
And I'm more lazy than, dude. Actually, I'm lying. I don't know the last time I stepped foot in those stores because they introduced curbside during COVID, and I'm keen lazy. I just shop online. Right. I order it, and then I don't actually step foot. I went and picked up groceries at 7:30 a.m. this morning for my wife, and nice. At curbside. And can you get the grocery order? If you do curbside, I can.
There you go. Makes shopping easy.
I'm not going inside. I'm American. I'm bulking. It's bulking season. I'm not walking. Anyway, you just got back from New Zealand, and man. Well, first off, I envy just the trip, regardless of the things you were doing there. New Zealand's so beautiful from what I've seen in pictures. And if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you're there. You were there.
Dude, it was insane.
But let's talk about, so distilling is completely legal there. Yeah. I would never have you incriminate yourself. Is there a future, though, is there a legality barrier for the future of you doing content that would do alternative mashes? If you get where I'm hinting at, like, is distillation possible to also document in this country?
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky thing. While we were there, we had to film as much as we could because at least now I can post it and be like, oh, I was in New Zealand. It's legal there. But yeah, unfortunately, there definitely is a barrier with that. I think there actually are a few states where I think maybe you can get certain licensing. I'm not exactly super familiar with distilling laws, but yeah, unfortunately, federally in the U.S., you cannot home distill.
Yeah, my pop, during this episode we filmed, we were hiking up a mountain. He was like, I want to try distilling. And I was like, well, Pop, I got to edit that out. But also, like, what are we going to do? Put a green screen and put New Zealand behind us or Australia and be like, oh, hey, we traveled all the way down here just to do some content for you.
I think the title of my YouTube vlog was something like I flew around the globe so I could legally distill or something like that.
See, I'm going to run, you're better than ChatGPT. I got to run video titles by you better. For this episode, I'm going to put you with that picture that I've seen all over the internet holding the Mountain Dew wine. And I'm going to put something like, he did what? As like the, I'm got to work on my YouTube. Like the podcast started, which, by the way, I don't remember if I finished my thoughts earlier. 10 years ago, next week, the week after this publishes, it'll be 10 years, not 10 years of content. Don't do the math. This is only episode 420. But we weren't always consistently weekly. And we also we had like a 7-month hiatus or 5.5 month, whatever.
Man,
but
that's
10 years.
Incredible. Congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
And a lot has changed. Not just for the podcast, but in the industry, in the hobby in general, and people's interests. Yeah. Young people aren't really, like, I'm surprised, you are you, what are you? You're not millennial, you'd be Gen Z, probably?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you find, like, in your area where you're at, or even your community at large, is your channel getting more young people into booze? Or
oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. I think the demographic of my channel is like, at least like 75% people like under 25.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So that's why I know you were at the version of Homebrew Con this year. I meant to come to your talk, but we were filming content on alt beer stuff. We were at Great American Beer Festival simultaneously. I was so rude. Yeah. I did not come introduce myself for fun.
I know. I was hoping to find you there, but
my apologies.
I was only there for a couple days. So.
I'm also only 5'0", so I was hidden in the crowds. You couldn't see me. If you knew what James looked like, you'd be like, oh, there they are. He's 8 feet tall. I'm 4 foot. I'm a hobbit, but it's no surprise to me they had you there because beer makers we've been failing, myself, the AHA, everybody, and failing. I'm not using that too derogatory. I just mean young people are not jumping at the bones to homebrew, and a lot of them aren't jumping to even drink beer. Like a lot of them are maybe hop waters, maybe hard seltzers,
Totally.
and the craft beer pardon me. Let me take that back before someone comments. I take back craft. The macro beers they're drinking, like the Michelobs, because they're health conscious or whatever. So mead, it is interesting to me that you have such a large audience of young people, and you find a correlation between them being your audience and directly trying out brewing as well.
Yeah, 100%. And funny enough, I think kind of what we were talking about before, a lot of people are intimidated by, they think homebrewing, they think you need hundreds and hundreds of dollars of equipment. They think it's going to take up so much of their time. And I think just kind of raising the awareness and not only telling people, but showing people just how easy it is, even if it's just kind of getting them to step in the door and be like, "Oh, sure, I'll try a batch." Or like with the soda meads, they're like, "Oh, I maybe they were never interested in making mead or wine, but they want to ferment their favorite soda." It's like, so be it. That's getting them into the door, and a lot of the times it opens up their eyes to the entire realm of homebrewing, which is incredible.
It really is. And in fermentation in general, so I've been in the industry in one way or another almost 17 years, but since doing the podcast, I've tried making kimchi and then making kombucha, nitro cold brew, all these things I wouldn't have if I wasn't exposed to people who were passionate about it and being like, you don't do this yet? Look how it is so easy to make kimchi. Here's how I do it, or whatever. It's incredible. The community is incredible. So I appreciate what you're doing with the greater community at large. I want to talk before I let you go about the meme batches or whatever you called them earlier, the meme brews.
All right, here we go.
Were those for real results, or were those because you knew you could get some eyes on your channel and then get people into the actual meat and potatoes of what you do in regards to making mead and wine?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And I'm going to start by saying that everything I do is because I genuinely am probably more excited to do it than the people watching are. So it is especially the Mountain Dew, which was the first, that was the first soda ferment that I did. And I had been seeing that forever. Like people were requesting that like crazy. And I'm like, all right, I'm excited about this. I want to give this a try. But at the same time, like people were asking for it and it did really well. And so then it kind of made me realize that there's this market of people that just want to see what's possible. And I am one of them. It kind of goes both ways. I certainly I certainly knew that those crazier recipes probably wouldn't be the best thing I would ever drink, but a lot of the times it was more so just to see if it could be done to begin with. Which is also fun to do too.
I love it.
But then part of that too is like actually trying to make them good too. Like the Peeps one, for example. Like that was probably the one that I was least excited for, and it was mostly a meme because I saw something like, I think somebody did it on Reddit or something similar a long time ago. And so I did that with zero expectations, and I actually ended up tasting it and it was like, okay, this legit has some potential. And I backsweetened it with some meadow foam honey, which, if you don't know, tastes exactly like marshmallows. So by the end of it, I had a final product that tasted like marshmallow mead, and it was like something that I would let other people try and be like kind of proud of in a way.
Do you
in a sick way?
Do you do recipe kits too, or you just you sell the recipe book and they source it themselves?
Yeah, not yet. I sell the recipe book, and then I sell the kits that have the main ingredients. So they have like yeast, nutrients, stabilizers, acids, but I don't sell actual recipe kits with like herbs and spices and stuff yet. Although that would be something that people have requested that I'd probably be open to doing one day.
Yeah, looking into it. Yeah. I'll say I will not be a Debbie Downer, but if you can find a way to make money off it, God bless you. More power to you. I just mean shipping too. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir. Shipping is ridiculous these days.
Dude, tell me about it. And one of my biggest business mistakes was probably like trying to do the right thing at first and include shipping in the price. And then people would like see my prices and compare them to Amazon, and it was like a whole big thing. And so I don't do that anymore, actually. And people seem to like that a lot better, ironically. But
that's funny.
Dude, shipping's insane. And I started
Shipping's
doing
insane.
international shipping too.
Oh no.
Just to the UK, Canada, Germany, and Australia. And people are paying more in shipping than they are for the actual kits.
Yep. I believe it.
But I mean, unfortunately, there's no way around that.
No, and I, 99% of the customers we had are very understanding and they're good people. And like you were saying too, with even commenters, right? 99.9% of people who've ever left me feedback or comments, even if it's not feedback I want to hear, they're coming from a good place and they're real
Yeah.
good. But
Totally.
that 0.01%, they suck. And they'll say things like, I'm not going to pay. Like Todd just sold the website for Cat Connection, but we were operating it for many, 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 many years. And flat rate shipping, $9.95. We eat the shipping just to compete with the bigger companies in the space.
Oh yeah, dude.
And so people would be like, "Oh my god, $9.95." I'm like, brother. Here, let me do a live stream with you to show you on the screen. Oh, it's costing us $38 to ship it to you, and you're complaining because but Amazon has it for free.
Dude, it's you're preaching to the choir, man.
People, and again, like I said, 99% of people are wonderful, but the 1%, which in our case, her name is Dragonfly Lady on Apple iTunes, and she is the worst. Dragonfly Lady, I'm coming for you 2025. That was my wrestling promo. Anyway,
there you go.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, so would you say of all the meme batches you've done, batches that you've done, which one turned out the best that you would continue to do? Or are they just better off as one-offs experiments?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say, why don't I start by telling you the worst one?
Deal.
So the Dr. Pepper one I made was terrible. It actually, I think something was wrong with it, and I got some stressed yeast during fermentation because it was just very like, when you brew beer, sometimes you'll get like that sulfur smell during fermentation.
Oh, yeah, especially lager.
It was like that, like the sulfur kind of rotten egg smell, which I tried to fix by throwing some copper in there, and it actually helped it out a lot. But it was more so like, picture Dr. Pepper and all. I don't even know. I couldn't tell you what's in Dr. Pepper. Some sort of roots and spices. But you take the sweetness away, like you ferment all the sugar away, and you're left with just that. It's very bizarre, especially when it's flat and watered down, and it was only like 5% alcohol.
Oh no!
So that was one that was like, okay, I might have to revisit that one and try to make that one good, because I know I could, but the first one just wasn't it. Yeah. Let's in terms of the best one, I already talked about the Peeps, so I'll go with something else. But
yeah, I can't imagine the Monster was very good. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I just can't imagine.
The Monster was sort of middle of the pack.
Okay.
Yeah, because that one actually had some residual sweetness, which actually helped out a lot. Like, it didn't taste far off from the original product, which was totally different from Dr. Pepper. It just tasted like Monster with alcohol, honestly. So it really wasn't that bad. But
hard Monster. You just opened a whole new market, unless they already do that. Wait, that's Four Locos, right? Isn't that all Four Locos was?
Yeah, that's basically a Four Loko right there. And dude, we're taking it one step further. One of the things we did in New Zealand, I might get in trouble for spoiling this, but everyone's going to see it soon anyways. And I was posting behind the scenes stuff, but we made, so because of my original video, Fermenting Monster, we made a huge batch of fermented Monster, and then we distilled it into Monster Shine.
Is that what you were doing? I saw all your stories.
That was one of the many things we were doing. There's a lot. Yeah, if you're excited by that, then there are a lot of things that I think people are going to be ecstatic about.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I guess where I'll wrap it up with you, because I do respect your time and I appreciate you coming on the show, brother. It really has been fun.
Oh, yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Is there, like, what ideally for 2025, is there anything you can say in regards to like what you want to try fermenting, or what if you're going to, try something that's maybe so left field, or like, do you have it mapped out, or do you really take this stuff kind of week by week, depending on your audience feedback?
A little bit of both. I would say half of my content is based on feedback that I kind of do like on the spot on a week by week basis, but I do have some exciting things coming. Yeah, after I started doing like a lot of the crazy like Monster Mountain Dew recipes, a lot of people have been reaching out to me, a lot of companies like sending me their products and kind of wanting me to do the same thing, but with their products. And Monster happens to be one of them. So they sent me a whole, basically, like 8 cases worth of different Monster flavors to try. So I'll certainly be doing some experimentation between different Monster flavors and maybe do a little tournament to see which is the best.
I love it.
Same thing with like Prime and Gatorade and Mountain Dew. And yeah, I think there's some exciting things to come on that in that realm, but also in terms of content, I'm really trying to build up my long form game on YouTube. That's something I haven't really done in the past. I only have a handful of actual long form videos, and I'm trying to. I really want to sort of build that up and have a platform where I'm providing all that detail that people want to know in one video rather than just the shorts. So that's been kind of something that's been really fun, and I'm also doing a series that's going to be coming out in the next couple weeks actually on my YouTube channel called Flight Night. And it's kind of like, it's a ripoff of like Hot Ones, where they eat the hot wings.
Yeah.
But it's going to be going through a flight of all my different crazy homebrewing creations with a guest. So I'm going to do an interview series where I have a guest and we sit and go through 10 of my meads and just kind of do just like Hot Ones. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. The first episode is with Jesse from the YouTube channel Still It, and that'll be coming out in a couple weeks. And I plan to have a lot of different guests on there, and it should be exciting.
Dude, that is awesome. If you need someone to get sloshed with, you just call. All right.
Oh yeah, you're on the list for sure.
Yeah, I wonder, what does the average mead finish at? Like 12% on average? 15?
Yeah, between 10 and 15.
And you're just
but it's you'll see in the video. By the end, we were feeling it.
I bet my cheeks are already red. But after 10 meads, I'm gonna be like, freaking. That's wild.
And Jesse was a great person to do the first episode with because, of course, he brought out a few surprise shots of some of his creations, which are liquors, by the way.
That's incredible. And so that's going to be on your YouTube channel, which is, well, I know you're on every platform. Is it all Golden Hive Mead on every platform for people? If the rare person who listens to Homebrew Happy Hour but doesn't know who Golden Hive Mead is, tell the people at home how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, man. So at Golden Hive Mead on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And I would say if you're an experienced homebrewer, more of the technical content will be long form YouTube videos. Everything else, if you just want more of the entertainment value, but still some educational stuff, then yeah, definitely the short form style videos on all other platforms.
And then for kits and recipes, that would be goldenhivemead.com, correct?
You got it, man.
Absolutely. Yep. My friend, Charlie, I sincerely appreciate your time, and I would love to have you on in the future again, either for long form like this or short or whatever. It was a blast. I can see why, comparatively speaking, your stuff picks up pace and ours doesn't. I get it. I'm going to make some changes in 2025.
Dude, we should make something happen and make a batch of beer together, do some sort of collaboration. That'd be awesome.
You tell me what you want, I'll make it happen, my friend.
Awesome. Yeah, sure. We'll figure something out. And I'm happy to come on whenever.
I appreciate your time, dude. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Cheers, man.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com and use the submit a question link at the top of the page. But even better, be Todd's best friend and leave a voicemail at 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsors like Muntons Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Muntons, give them a try by joining the Trub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hops.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of premium imperial yeast along with delicious recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. Again, my friend, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.